chance and then you blew it.
That is the most absurd statement of the year.
Nice. Nice.
Oh, baby.
I'm in my zone, I'm feeling it.
Live from Rock Solid Studios in Granite Falls, it's time for MinneZona Sports, live with DJ Matty C. and Paul the Shield Vold.
And this is MinneZona Sports Live. We are back, yes. Claps all around. We are back. Episode 115. After a 1 week hiatus off the vacay, we are back. And without further ado, I am your host, DJ Matty C, a.k.a. Matt Callahan, a.k.a. Callie, a.k.a. Matty C, etc., etc., etc. And all the way from Woods and Shore Studios in Aiken, Minnesota, Paul Vold, the Shield. What's going on there, Shield?
I feel a certain level of responsibility by wearing the gang green this week, just because of the fact of the news that has come out about said quarterback for the New York Jets and his, let's say, extracurricular activities. So I'm not going to go that route whatsoever. So forewarned, I may not live up to the same hype as Zach Wilson, but good on you, Zach Wilson, out there living his best life. But, I'm excited. It's been a long couple of weeks, and it's been a long couple of weeks without the show. I'm excited about tonight, as always.
Well, you know what the funny thing about it is that it's not Zach Wilson. It's actually Cord Hansen. So claps out to Cord Hansen for everything that's been going on. No, I know. It's not Cord Hansen, even though it looks like Cord Hansen. Zach Wilson looks like Cord Hansen, but we're having some fun here starting the show.
All I'm saying is Zach Wilson and Cord Hansen, never seen them in the same room before.
It's true.
Just saying.
We might have to make that happen. I don't know. But Zach Wilson, yeah. another time, but I like how you dropped that going. But yeah, we are back after 1 week hiatus, as we like to say here. Feeling good. A lot of things coming up, Voldy. We've got Vikings training camp vastly approaching, and the Twins. Oh boy, the Twins. We got some things to say about that, and we're starting the show off with that. And then tonight we got some Infinity rankings. And I'm going to be talking about what I'm most excited for the Vikings season, and we'll deep dive into that here later on. And then ARA, we're still staying with Vikings because there's been the controversy of the Kirk and Zimmer thing that's kind of resurfaced here. So we're going to get to that. Some other ARA stories. Robmanfred, funny story on that. We'll get to that later as well. So anyway, Voldy, let's just get things started with some Tater Tot Hot Take.
Fresh out of the oven, it's Tater Tot Hot Take.
It's fresh, it's hot, it's right out of the oven. Tater Tot Hot Take. Now, we start off things with our Minnesota Twins. Obviously, if you watched the All-Star game last night, it was pretty good for Minnesota. I mean, Louis Arise was playing. Byron Buxton hitting the go-ahead home run. So claps out to Bucks. I think we're feeling pretty good about that. So I wanted to start off with that before we go into the Twins. But, claps out to those guys for the All-Star game. Great honor. Buxton felt pretty good about representing Minnesota, too. Saw some of the interview and whatnot. He's the big lights, the big stage. He was loving it, man. So props out to our guy, Byron Buxton.
Yeah, robbed of MVP honors.
Yes.
So that's some Bush League right there.
Absurdity is what it is. And we like to say that here on this show. So, the stamp of approval there, Voldy, on that statement. So, let's... In the lower third, we have, we know. Now, you probably are thinking, why does it say that? Like, why do we even care? Well, the Minnesota Twins kind of stumbled into the All-Star weekend or week or whatever, however you want to put it. I don't care. They stumbled in there, okay? Now, the Twins were taking on the White Sox. They lost 3 out of 4, only winning 1 out of it, and that's concerning. They still have a lead in the AL Central. We're feeling good about that. But there's been a lot of controversy surrounding this team, and it's not the bats. I think you know what I mean when I say this. Pitching! Pitching. Okay, now you're probably wondering, what's it this time? They didn't spend money into that. No. I have stats to prove what's been going on with this team. Now, you can blame the injuries all you want for this team. I don't give a rat's you-know-what, okay? Mm-hmm. They have been bad. They are currently, right now, with ERA, Voldy, they are over 5. 5.04. That is 27th in the MLB. Only ahead of the Padres, the Nationals, and the Red Sox. That is a terrible ERA. And we can't ignore this fact. Have there been injuries? Sure. Yeah, you lost Paddock at the beginning of the season. Okay, fine. But then you have guys that are supposed to step up. Devin Smeltzer, he's had good games, but there's too inconsistent. Griffin Jax, another guy. But our bullpen needs help. The Twins' starting pitching isn't bad. There's been some rough outings from Archer. There's been some rough outings for guys like Stashak, Akala, Duffy, Pagan for one. Oh my gosh, good lord. It's not good. The bullpen needs to get going, and Joe Ryan and Sonny Gray have had pretty good seasons too, but I feel like these guys won't be able to carry the load if they have more help. So, Voldy, let me ask you this as we near the trade deadline, which is vastly approaching as well. Voldy, how many pitchers would you say, and I asked the zoners as well, would the Twins need in order to kind of fix this, right the ship a little bit? What do you think? How many?
A minimum of 2, maximum of 4. That's what I'm saying. Couple, at least 1, if not 2 starters. Maybe get like a guy that could be like a 2-3 starter, and at least 1 guy that can fill out the rest of the rotation. And then you got to get a couple of guys on the back end for the bullpen. You got to mix and match here, especially with guys that you may have trade pieces. There's a couple good trade pieces the Twins have with their minor league team, and guys that have seen a lot of playing time here this year. And maybe the opportunity has finally struck for right time for Miguel Sano to maybe get traded as well. Just saying, he's coming back. He's hitting the ball well down in AAA, and probably won't be too much longer until he's back up the big club, just in time for the deadline as well to sneak that guy in there. I would say you need at least 2 starters, if not a couple of relievers, maybe 1 starter and at least 2 guaranteed relievers and a guy you could probably bring out of the bullpen, maybe be a long relief guy. But up until the series against Chicago, the Twins pitching, especially with Devin Smeltzer, the last 4 or 5 starts he's had, I'm going to go up there and say he's been the best pitcher the Twins have had. And it's about damn time that they had him in the rotation. Been saying it as the last 3 years. Why is he not in the rotation? Why do you keep wasting him at AAA? And now the Twins are starting to see the fruits of his labor. But then you get guys like, especially in the first half of the season too, like Griffin Jax. Griffin Jax has pitched a lot of meaningful innings. Sonny Gray got off to a rough start. He's come back from, a couple of injuries, but has also really put in some nice work here this season. Like you mentioned, too, with Chris Archer, he's been a little bit up and down, injuries, things of that sort, shoulder issues, and, just overall wear and tear off of his body. But going into the deadline, I would say at least a minimum of 2, if not as much as 4 pitchers the Twins need.
There has to be some guys who are available and that can make an impact, because a lot of these guys are relatively young too, and we don't realize this, but they can add to this and right the ship. Think about it. You're still leading the Central. Why wouldn't you add more arms to help that. You can give up some prospects. It's okay to do that. You have to ask Falvey and Levine, but it shows like where this could go after the All-Star break. If they don't do anything and they just kind of rely on guys that they think they can right the ship and whatnot, well, Wes Johnson isn't there anymore, so there's that. And you have to factor that in, because now you have some guys that are filling in and whatnot, but they're in different roles, but still, they could maybe make a difference. I don't know. I don't see this. If this team goes into, let's just say they win the division, they make the playoffs, they are going out the first round. I'm not joking. I'm not joking. Easily. Because there is not enough help right now for this team in order to have a solid bullpen, because the bullpen has been bad. Starting pitching, like you mentioned, hasn't been completely awful, but they've had they've been rocked off of too. So we can't forget
Big
that.
Time.
And that's what's missing. I think, and like you said, you got to mix and match with starting pitchers as well as adding some bullpen guys. I don't care if you're getting a guy that's kind of so, just bring him in. Who cares? They have to be better than what you have right now. And I'm not trying to, throw any of these pitchers under the bus or anything like that.
Except Emilio Pagan.
Yeah. That's a whole different can of worms to open. Duran has been, but I just feel like I think the Duffy experiment may need to stop here soon, because every time I see him pitch, it's almost like, oh God,
you got to hold your breath every time he comes out of the bullpen.
Yeah, so it's kind of like me and with Jesse Crane. Sometimes I cringe, and whatnot. But Rocco saying our bullpen guys were lined up to get outs. We had chances through these. This is the past when they took on the White Sox. We had chances to get through these innings too. The innings that we didn't get through, a couple home runs, they don't help. Well, no S. Sherlock. It's you got to do something about it. And now, is it unfair to say, well, they didn't have their pitching coach? The pitching coach left, so it's like, but you have guys to fill in. It's not like they don't know what they're doing. They're pitchers. It's that simple. But I still think they need to make a call to Coach Bo. Say, Coach Bo, we want you in Minnesota. We'll take you from Canada. We'll bring you in. That's all I'm saying. I don't know. We'll see. But
we'll see.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh no, you get okay. But
no, I was just adding on.
but I think they will be forced to do it. Now, it's like, well, Matty C. Shield, why aren't you ripping the Pohlads here? Why aren't you at the ball? The Pohlads have no choice at this point. They have no choice, because if they say, nope, we can't pay for this guy. Nope, we can't pay for this guy. No, we can't. I don't give a rip. Go out and get somebody. I don't care. If it fails, it fails. But get some guys in there, so then this team can make a run. Buxton's been on fire. Arise is playing out of his freaking mind. Polanco's been good. You can't give this up. You just can't. It's that simple. And if it blows up and they don't do anything, then heads are gonna roll. I really think heads are gonna roll here, and I don't mean that in a gruesome way, but for the expression, that's what's gonna happen. So. We'll see what happens. I think they're back playing on Saturday, so we'll keep an eye on it and get back to you when we have more. So, all right, Voldy, our next Tater Tot Hot Take for this week. Justin Jefferson's been in the news lately. JJ is under the impression, and again, I say, yes, absolutely 100%. I think this could happen. But this is what he was quoted saying, and this is an interview with Complex, the magazine, online, all that stuff. JJ says, I'll say after this year, I'll be the best receiver in the NFL. Uh-huh. I definitely have to give it to Adams as of now. Him being so crazy and dynamic on the field, his route running is crazy, which is very true. So I definitely have to give it to him right now. but I'm pretty sure after this year it's going to be me. He makes the proclamation. Some people, I don't think there has been any backlash to what he said. I think people are like, yeah, he very well could be. So Voldy, before I dive into this and whatnot, and I asked the zoners this too, do you think that this is good that he is saying this to people, or do you think that this is something to where, oh no, like if the Vikings are looking at this like, oh god, we're gonna have to pay him a lot of freaking money here. So, what do you guys think? I mean, do you think that the statement's fine? Doesn't bother us? We like the optimism and him striving towards that goal, or do we think I wish he didn't say that? What do you think, Voldy?
No, I don't see this as a problem, honestly, because looking at what he's comparing himself to, obviously Davante Adams for the now Las Vegas Raiders, he's looking at that as the benchmark. And, well, it just turned out that Davante Adams was named, put into the 99 club on Madden. So if Adams is the 99, then Justin Jefferson's like a 103 or a 104, on the Madden ratings. If you can go above 100 as well. I don't play Madden, nor will I ever for the first time in my life. I honestly don't have an issue with it. The fact that he's been able to put up the numbers that he has since the 2020 season, a player that's had has more receiving yards than Jefferson, also ranks 7th in receptions and also 10th in receiving touchdowns as well when he came in the league. And it's only going into year number 3 in the league. He doesn't have that kind of confidence in offenses that were not exactly pass-first offenses, meaning that, going with Kevin O'Connell now under helm as a head coach and obviously an offensive-minded coach, that's going to open up the door a little bit more to get, the ball into the Jets' hands one way or another, and that's going to be very interesting to see, especially with, Kirk not being afraid to throw the football, too, and given all the weapons that the Vikings have as well.
Yeah.
I don't have an issue with his comments at all. You got to have that swagger in order to be the best in the NFL, and that's what he wants to be. Well,
I agree with everything that you've been saying, and I want to lay this on you too, and the zoners. We can't ignore the fact that this is a bold proclamation. This is something this is big. I mean, you calling yourself the best wide receiver in the NFL is a lot. But let me throw this stat at you. Since the start of the 2020 season, no player has more receiving yards than Justin freaking Jefferson. He ranks 7th in receptions and 10th in receiving touchdowns. Granted, he's had a lot of touchdowns robbed, to be honest, because, he was down at the one or, and I still remember the Bengals game this past year where I think that was 100% a touchdown. But, we'll give it to Dalvin. We'll give it to Dalvin. Touchdown's a touchdown.
And the fumble that wasn't a fumble.
Yes, correct. Yes, correct. But, hey, I don't know. We'll leave it like that. We got Green Bay first game. More on that later. But think about that. Since 2020, he's had the most yards. If he puts up a season like he has this, or 2020 COVID, yeah, sure, but still, he was dominant. This past year, he was dominant as well. Now, you can say, well, he might have a lot of yards, but, he's getting, Thielen's getting his receptions too. Yeah, he's getting his receptions too. But, Thielen, I think, knows that JJ's kind of the guy. And he is doing everything in his power to, help him get to that level. And he's already at that level. He is, I swear, he is almost, if you compared him with Adams, he mentions Adams in this, and he gives him a lot of props. He says, you got to give it to him. His route running is just crazy and things like that. But JJ's route running is fantastic too. But Davante wasn't doing that his first couple of years. It's just, not saying that he's bad by any means, because he has thoroughly improved, because he used to be Davante Adams, mind you, before he actually started to get going. So I think he actually heard what I said and probably just, did prove me wrong, which is fine. But this I don't have an issue with, because he is exerting his confidence, it's like, well, is he a diva? Well, no, he's not a diva, and he's already said that he isn't, and he is basically putting it out there. Hey, I feel like I'm the best wide receiver out there, and honestly, he has a case. Right now, he has a case. And if he gets, let's just say, Voldy, I think this would be appropriate, right? I think this would be appropriate if he had 1,600 again. I mean, I think that is something to where if he gets to that point and he's got a lot of touchdowns with over 1,600 receiving yards, yeah, it's definitely, he's in the conversation big time, unless someone else puts up Megatron numbers. We'll see. But I would say JJ, I think JJ definitely could be. Now, the next question is, and then we'll move on here to Infinity Rankings. I asked this to the zoners. I asked this to you, Voldy. It's going to be contract time coming up here soon.
Yep.
He's probably going to be the highest paid wide receiver for a long time. Voldy, at this point, of knowing what we know right now, and the zoners, I say this to you as well, do you give him that contract if he has a great season like he's had these past two? What do you got?
Yes. Give him the key to Fort Knox. Give him all the money in the GD world. I'm talking, because literally, we are getting the second coming of Randy Moss. And last time that we had this, the Vikings found a way to screw it up towards the end. Then they bring him in. Still found a way to screw it up. I feel like we're in Randy Moss's good graces right now, but not to the point that we should have in the first go-around towards the end of his tenure in the purple and gold. And then the second time around was just really a farewell tour of anything as well. Give the man the money. Even if he has a slightly down year, the numbers that he's put up in his first 2 years going into his third year constitutes the fact that he is not only recognizable across the league, but soon to be, if not already, the best in the league as well. And talking about as well here, you had mentioned a little bit about Thielen too, and that connection. Like, look, everybody's going to be keying in on Jefferson because obviously the play. Look, I'm still saying, even in his advanced age, Adam Thielen's no spring chicken either. I mean, he's he's not your average scrub, second wide receiver. If it's 1A and 1B, look, Adam Thielen can still go out there and get it too. He's definitely not dropping off anytime soon. But, obviously going up against, Jefferson as well. I mean, that's the best combination you have in the league right there. Yep. So if Jefferson puts up even the same amount of numbers he did last year, still giving him all the money that he needs in order to be happy, stay in purple for as long as his career shall dictate.
I agree. And the question is how are things going to go this season? You keep, I'd say, most of the roster, even though, they've, made some deals. Obviously, having Zadarius Smith, I think, is a huge get. More on that in a little bit, or coming up next here. But, JJ wasn't he wasn't thinking about him. Now, he's thinking about himself in that aspect, but in a team aspect, he was asked as well about, where he expects the Vikings to be. He goes, we're expecting big things. All of us are expecting to at least make the playoffs. We're feeling, with all these players on this team, there's no reason we shouldn't be there for the big game. I tend to agree with that because I feel like what they needed is structure. They needed a coach that the players could rally around, and I think KOC's that guy. I'm going to get more into that here. We're going to get more into that. But in the case of JJ, he is not just this guy that's just like, it's all about JJ. It's all about, and Moss would get like that. I think in this case, JJ is for the team, and also, he with all respect too, he can, say that he's the best wide receiver. Devontae definitely thinks that. DeAndre Hopkins thinks that. Tyreek Hill probably thinks that. So that's fine. No issues with that. But to answer the question, yes, I think they do that as of right now. Hopefully there's no big contract dispute or anything like that. But Kwesi and front office are going to have a hell of a time trying to figure out something for JJ. So we'll see. We shall see. But we're looking forward to the season. And speaking of looking forward to the season, Infinity rankings this week, Voldy and Zoners. With training camp approaching, and it will be approaching, I believe, next week, I wanted to kind of go over the things I'm most excited about for this upcoming training camp and what things are going to look like. We'll get a taste of it in the preseason, 3 preseason games. I believe only one is at home, and we'll see, what this is going to look like. Defensively, offensively, and whatnot. So what I did is I ranked all of these new factors in specific players and especially, the defense, offense, things like that. So we're going to get going here with Infinity rankings, and I'm going to show you guys, hey, this team is looking pretty damn good. So let's get it going with some Infinity rankings.
While many have power rankings, none have captured them all. It's time for Matty C's Infinity Rankings.
All right, it is time for Infinity Rankings. Voldy, I have sent you my list, or my ranks, I should say, for lack of a better word. And there's 6 of them with 6 Infinity Stones. If you're a big Marvel fan, you know what I'm talking about. So let's get into it right now. Here we go, revealed. Here are my 6. Let's start off, obviously, like we do with number 6. The Vikings rookies. That is what I'm most intrigued to see, is how some of these rookies are going to look for our Minnesota Vikings. Lewis Seen, Andrew Booth, Jalen Naylor, and especially with those guys specifically, because there's a lot of movement. The Vikings traded back, they accumulated picks. There were a lot of question marks, and the people calling Kwesi Adolfo Spielman, things like that. Now, if these rookies stand out and really kick some tail, which I believe that Seen will, I think Booth will, then Kwesi's going to throw it right back in your face. I hope that happens. Now, we got to see we got to, not every rookie is going to be great right out of the gate. Now, if you look at what they have, they get Ty Chandler, a fast running back from UNC. I think could be a big factor. Kene is in there as well. I think they almost want to do some load management with Dalvin, which I think is fine. And I don't think, they're going to just deprive him of his carries. He'll get his carries. But I also think that you want to utilize some of the weapons you do have at your arsenal. And I think that's what Kevin O'Connell will do. So it'll be interesting to see what these rookies look like. Defensively with Seen, I think he's going to be a hard hitter. I think he's going to learn a lot from Dirty Harry. And we're going to feel pretty good later on here. So that's what I'll put at number 6. So number 5, the new look 3-4 defense. That's the big one for me, is with Ed Donatel, a guy that, has had success in this league. He was with the Broncos before. And let's be honest, the Broncos defense, Voldy, Zoners, has been good. It's just their offense is just so abysmal that couldn't find a quarterback. Now they have Russell Wilson, all that stuff. But Donatel has been a very good coordinator. He's been a great coordinator. He's been around this league. He knows what's up. This defense needs a refresh. And it's all, in all due respect to Zim, we'll get to that later on. But I think this is something that the players needed. And also, Donatel wants to utilize these guys and get opinions on certain if you want to blitz here, if these guys feel, having the players give some input too. They should be able to. Now, I think that's going to be the big difference. Now, how does a guy like Danielle Hunter, transition from a 4-3 to a 3-4? He's going to be standing up. Is he going to be on 3 points? We don't know. How is this going to look? Zadarius Smith. You don't bring in Zadarius Smith without having him, this is specifically for a 3-4, so he doesn't need to adjust much. I mean, it's a lot of the same language. So Daniil's going to have to learn as well, and a lot of the other the players. I mean, with Hicks, with Kendricks, guys like that, I think are going to be key for this team. The middle linebackers are going to be interesting to watch. So the 3-4 defense, I'd probably say, is going to be the one thing that I've seen that's going to. I think it's going to be improved. But it might take some time too. So I mean, it's not an easy transition. All right, let's move on to number 4, O-line progression. Now, Voldy, I don't think I seen the Vikings struggle much with their own line this past season. I feel like the first game we had some penalty. The penalty issues were bad. I mean, holding and this and that and that. But I've seen some good steps forward. Obviously, the right guard position is still a thing that we've been struggling with. But I've seen a lot of progression, and, Brian O'Neill's kind of been now the leader of this offensive line. How are they going to incorporate Bradbury? And, they're hoping that he kind of evolves a little bit and whatnot. And obviously, I think he will. It's just he has to show improvement, or else he's not going to be re-signed, and we're looking for another center. So there's that. But I look at this offensive line. I think Christian Darrisaw, him being in the fold now as a full-time starter, is going to be key. And he's definitely learned a lot, and I've liked what I've seen from him. And Ezra Cleveland, I've really haven't seen any downgrade with him. I think he's been a solid left guard. The right guard spot's going to be where we're going to be looking at, and with the Jesse Davis signing, and you bring in the guy from LSU. I think that's another thing, Ed Ingram. So we'll see what happens with the progression there. Number 3, I put Kevin O'Connell, KOC. That's what we're going to call him here, KOC. I'm interested to see how he interacts with. Right now I think he is a player's coach. I believe that he's brought a big breath of fresh air to this team, and I think they needed that. And I think a lot of the players said fear-based culture with Zim and things like that. And now this is a guy that's going to encourage instead of get on you if you don't get things done. And I think that's what you need. That's what you need at this point. This is not a time of hard-nosed coach. They still love you at the end of the day, but I think times have changed with that. But that's just me. Kevin O'Connell, how is this offense going to look with Wes Phillips as OC as well? I don't know if it was said that if O'Connell's going to call the plays or if it's going to be Phillips. Who knows? We'll see how that pans out. But I think from this perspective, what is the offense going to look like with all this talk about Jefferson being the Cooper Kupp type of person as well? And I believe in O'Connell, man. I really believe in O'Connell. And I think he's going to bring a lot of new things to this team. The run game is going to be interesting because I think, JJ kind of said that it's not a run-first offense anymore. This can be more of a, hybrid with a lot of passing, a lot of running. But you got to give Dalvin his stuff too. So, the guy's that good. So, but I think O'Connell with the atmosphere and how things look at training camp, it's going to be a tall tale sign. I think it's going to be looking very good for our Minnesota Vikings. So, all right, number 2, we already kind of touched on this earlier, but I'll just give a brief, outlook with it. Jefferson year 3. I believe Justin Jefferson is going to have a solid, very good third season here with our purple. And the reason why I say that is because this is an offense where I think he's going to excel in. He's going to have his receptions. It's going to be Cooper Kupp-esque. If we're going to say Cooper Kupp has been, this past season was unbelievable. And if you saw what he did in the Super Bowl, and that's due to a lot of help with Kevin O'Connell, too. OBJ goes down in the Super Bowl, Voldy and Zoners.
Yep.
And, you know, they keyed in on Kupp and whatnot. They tried to find a way to get him more involved. And then look at what he did in the second half. The guy was a monster. They found ways to get him the ball. And I think that's what's going to happen with JJ. And not, you know, if you compare both, I mean, obviously you want to go with the younger guy with JJ, but a lot of good things with Cooper Kupp. I mean, it's that. So I think with year 3, Jefferson's going to excel, barring any injuries. Knock on wood, knock on wood. So hopefully nothing goes wrong with that. But number 1, we're going to get into this like right after Infinity Rankings, but I put Kirky Unleashed. Now, why do I put that up there? Because Kirk, I think, is going to be unleashed this season. You know, Kirk's had people that have, you know, doubted him, haven't liked him, don't believe this, and this. For goodness sake, what does the guy have to do in order to gain respect from people? It's like, well, he doesn't have, you know, he shrivels up in big moments. He's not very good in those big moments, blah, blah, blah. Who gives a damn? This guy has been fantastic these past few seasons. His first season with Minnesota wasn't terrible. I thought it was pretty good. Were there some things that he needed to work on? Sure. Of course. But we can't just pin it on him. And a lot of those losses last year weren't on Kirk. It was on the defense that was supposed to be good. So if you want to bash Kirk, go ahead, bash him all you want. But I think Kirk Cousins is going to be unleashed this season, and I think he is going to have one of his best seasons in purple. And if not the best season in purple. So I'm feeling a lot of positivity right now. I think a lot of people are drinking the purple Kool-Aid here. But I look at all these 6 stones, and I think to myself, okay, I think if everything falls into place, if these guys are what we thought they were going to be last year, then the sky's the limit. Honestly, the sky's the limit. And I still think, and I'm going to say this before I get your thoughts here, Voldy, I still think the Minnesota Vikings are going to win the NFC North. I said this with the guys on the victorious P.O.D. I probably said this before. I still believe it today. The Minnesota Vikings are going to win the NFC North. So that's just my thing. Here is the list again. Obviously, if you guys think you want to add some things that I missed, please feel free. And if not, well, if you like it, just throw us a like, subscribe, all that stuff, since we're on YouTube. So here it is. And Voldy, you've got the list in front of you. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm looking at the list, and I definitely agree with a lot of things. I think, if anything, that I would switch around probably would be 4 and 5 between the 3-4 defense and the O-line progression as well. Because, yeah, I mean, the rookies are always exciting to see. That's, see what kind of experience, obviously what they're going to be bringing to the team as well. Lewis Seen, obviously, you bring a guy that's played in a lot of big games in his career in college, and him being a first round, a high draft pick for the Vikings too. Obviously, you're going to want to see him make an impact right away. And then with the O-line too, I would put them down at 5 just because, in years past, it's always been, what are we going to do about the O-line? What are we going to do about the O-line? Really, this offseason, no news has really been good news for the Vikings when it comes to that, obviously, with a couple of pieces that maybe switched around as we head further into the year, if not at the end of this current season too. That'll be something to look at. And addressing as well the 3-4 defense, if anything, it's going to allow Danielle Hunter to get, if you give him more space to work with, if we've seen anything out of Danielle Hunter, it's going to be a huge benefit for him to get to the quarterback a whole heck of a lot sooner. You throw him on one side, and then, you got Zadarius on the other. Let's play meet at the quarterback and see who wins. And you would put that to their avail. And there's a few other guys that can clog up a few holes and draw some attention for the Vikings too. So it's like, okay, who do you double team? Who do you triple team for that too? If you've got enough guys to work with. And then obviously at number 3, you got to put, Kevin O'Connell right there, notorious KOC, because, first head coaching job, first year with a brand new team, brand new regime as well, with Kwesi leading the way at the GM in the front office. It's going to be very interesting to see how that translates. And yeah, like you were talking about as well, with who's going to be calling the plays, offensive-minded coach that we've had in some time.
Yeah.
I mean, before obviously it was Zimmer, and then we had
Frazier, and then Chili.
Leslie Frazier was a defensive coach as well.
Then
you had what's his nuts, Brad Childress.
Yep.
He was an offensive-minded coach, so that worked out for a hot spell, I guess. There were a couple of good
Brett
years
Favre.
sandwiched in there, but. And then with Justin Jefferson year 3, see how we can go from the sophomore slump to the the big the junior jump, if you will, if anything, because after the freshman year, the rookie year, then you go to the sophomore slump, everybody says. But let's see what we can get here in the third year with the junior jump, and maybe put him at number 1 in the entire NFL. If he believes he can be number 1, there's no reason that he can't be number 1.
Sure.
And then you put Kirk Cousins right there at the top. Him and Kevin O'Connell, a little bit of that past experience when he was quarterback coach with him in Washington. It'll be very exciting to see offensively what they bring to the table, and with a few new added wrinkles, if anything, to get the ball into their hand, get into the hands of their playmakers, and let them out in some space too. So I definitely like this. It's a very good, solid set of Infinity rankings.
Well, thank you, sir. And it's. Like I said, you switch everything that you want around. It's one of those things where I think, with the top 3 were tough because I wasn't. It's easy to say Kevin O'Connell and Kirk and Justin and whatnot, but where to place those guys was kind of tough for me, because I'm like, well, I am excited for all 3, but I feel like with Kirk, I think he's got a lot to prove. I think he's got a chip on his shoulder, especially when we segue into ARA here. But, those are Infinity rankings. My top 6 stones for the Minnesota Vikings season coming up with training camp next week. And, should be fun. Should be a good season, and you can take it to the bank. I'm still saying it. The Minnesota Vikings are going to win the NFC North. Take that, Green Bay. That's all I got to say. But we'll keep going here with Zona, because we've got some cool stuff with ARA. We mentioned it before. The first one, we're going to just hit it right off the bat because we should. And then also, we're going to be talking about the MLB. We got some World Baseball Classic to talk about. Rob Manfred, small story with that as well. And then we also got more of Juan Soto. He had that big contract, so more on that coming up here. So, Voldy, I say we get it going with some absurd or approved.
It's time for everyone's favorite segment, Absurd or Approved.
No, I don't think so. And I think it's time for Absurd or Approved. So, Voldy, why don't you rattle them off for us, please?
Yeah, we've been kind of dancing around it a little bit here for our first story, talking about, of course, Kirk Cousins, Minnesota Vikings, and recent reports that have come out from former Minnesota Viking, and, of course, game day analyst and Twin Cities Live co-host now, Ben Lieber, is adding that feather into his cap as late, that talking about the, dysfunction that was the end of the tenure for Mike Zimmer, and also for quarterback Kirk Cousins, who, again, still remains with the team as well. A lot of unsavory comments or feelings between Cousins and also for Zimmer, according to Ben Lieber as well, thinking of ways that, we already know the story about the defensive mindedness of, Kirk Cousins, I should say, of Mike Zimmer, and the lack of relationship maybe as a complete whole team and head coach for Zimmer in going for an offensive side that both parties with Zimmer and Cousins not really meeting until the start of last season, with it being, 3 seasons as well, that didn't exactly go according to plan at the same time. And, of course, at the way things have kind of gone, especially with last year being with, quote, that there was a top 10 offense last year with a very green first-time first-time offensive coordinator, saying, was there a defense ranked last year? 31st. The year before that, I think they were ranked 27th. So people can rail Kirk and rail on Kirk and rail on the offense and say that we can't win with him or we can't win with this offense as well. Talking about that, and obviously some of the other comments that related, talking about basically how Zimmer just straight up didn't like Kirk Cousins in his time as well. Do you think it's absurd or approved that the alleged hatred with Mike Zimmer towards Kirk Cousins probably led to the downfall of the Vikings and their performance over the last few seasons?
Yeah. And the reason why I say that, and, on this show, I've been a firm believer and kind of believed in what Zim was putting out. Now, I think he outwore his welcome with a lot of things, and I think that with a lot of the criticisms, people were right on a lot of it. Now, that altercation after, I get, that shoving match after the game when we beat Detroit, I think had a lot more to it. At first, I think I said on the show too, I wouldn't worry about it. He was just happy. They were just happy. Yeah, I think they were, but also there's that thought in the back of your mind is that I think Kirk wanted to show him, like, screw you, man, which I can see from both sides. Now, you can rip Kirk all you want, okay? If you're a Kirk guy, great. If you're not a Kirk guy, which a lot of people aren't, fine. But I think in this aspect, I think this is the perfect time for Mike Zimmer to come out and say something. I firmly believe that. I don't think you're going to get much out of Kirk because he's still playing, and I don't think he wants the added drama with it. And with Zim, we haven't heard from Zim whatsoever. We haven't heard a lick from Mike Zimmer. And I believe it because if they haven't seen tape until this past season, that kind of shows you, okay, what's going on here? It's like, well, Zimmer thinks, a lot of theories are Zimmer thinks that, thought that they were spending too much money on Kirk and they couldn't upgrade the offense, this and that. But I'm under the firm belief that, this was a Spielman thing and whatnot, and people were forcing them to get Cousins. Well, that was your missing piece. And shoot, Zim said it. In all due respect to Keem's Keepers, because we love Keem's Keepers, but Zim was like, I don't know what case you're going to get. You're going to get the good case? He didn't want Case. Who did Zim want? And a lot of people point, well, he probably wanted Teddy. Maybe he did. I don't know. But it's hard to tell with that type of injury. And literally, there was a point in time where we thought Teddy lost his freaking leg. So I don't know why it was such a big deal with Zim, with how much money we gave him so that, they could have used that money to spend on defense and whatnot. But you're supposed to be the defensive guru, right? Well, you're supposed to be that guy. And, all due respect. But Zim just didn't, wasn't able to adjust. It's like, well, we didn't have enough money to do this. This. Well, you're supposed to help us out here with that. So, I think Lieber is correct in saying that Zimmer didn't like Kirk. And the one last thing I'm going to add to this, too, and I'll get to, and Zoners, let us know what you think, too. I think the COVID situation was definitely something that set Zimmer over the edge. And, Kirk didn't want to be vaxxed, and Kirk kind of, didn't really say that he wasn't vaxxed or anything like that, so we don't know specifically. But that irked Zimmer because Zimmer thought that people should be vaxxed. And Kirk thinks, I don't need to take the vax. I don't believe in it, or whatever went on. We don't know the story, but I think that really pissed off Zimmer even more. And then there was a lot of button of heads. So this is very it's very concerning that it was a relationship like that, because this could have been a really good relationship if everybody got along. I mean, that's all that needed to happen. People just needed to get along. Zimmer wasn't able to do that, and that's literally what led to his downfall. And Spielman too. I mean, there's that whole deal, but it's not Kirk's fault. I think Kirk is in the right here. I don't think there's anything that I would say would be like, well, you should hate Kirk, blah 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 blah, this type of thing. But it's a situation where Lieber's right. I mean, he's just spitting truth here, because he's on the sideline. He knows exactly, what goes on the field, and if there's players that kind of feel the same way. I mean, with Diggs, shoot, that's got to have something to do with Zimmer too. So I don't know, yeah, stamp of approval. It's literally what led to the downfall, and I think the COVID thing set it over the edge, and that was the end of it. So, yeah, stamp of approval. That's what happened. Voldy, what do you got?
I just really hope that it didn't come down to the fact that Zimmer didn't like Cousins. If it were going to be that petty about it, then you probably shouldn't be a head football coach to begin with in the National Football League. But I can honestly see the struggles between with that, and obviously, it wasn't for a lack of effort. Kirk Cousins did everything that he needed to win. It, unfortunately, at some of the times was, if we're going to start pointing fingers, it was the defense's fault that, kind of got us out of chances to winning some ball games and making a more concerted effort to actually win in the grand scheme of everything, too. The comments, looking at a bunch of them as well, it's very interesting just because we're never really going to know the full side of both sides is the thing until somebody comes out and actually says it too. And the fact that Ben Lieber's the one coming out and saying, I would like to think that it's pretty close to true, if not fully true, just because you feel like nobody's really going to mess around with Ben Lieber, and he's going to cut right to the point and give you obviously the side that he heard and be honest with it, because I don't know what Ben Lieber's got to gain from it out of it all. So, it's definitely got my stamp of approval just because, until we hear somebody say otherwise. These comments have been out for a couple of days. Kirk Cousins and Mike Zimmer haven't come out and said anything to begin with. So I'm going to say it's got to be true, and it's, got my stamp of approval.
Yeah, and, again, thanks to Ben Lieber for, shouting us out and whatnot. We appreciate it. It's the show's Ben Lieber approved. And I believe everything that he's said, and he's been, he's not afraid to tell people his thoughts. And I appreciate that, because there's a lot of truth in what he says too. So props out to Ben on that. But it's over now. So I kind of put it as, take it for what you will, and we're heading into a brighter future, I think. So we'll see if Zim says anything, because literally all this stuff has come out and nothing. And I can respect that too. So some things are left unsaid. So Voldy, next one.
Yeah, we go to Major League Baseball, and of course the All-Star game and All-Star festivities did take place last couple of days. And Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred, and obviously the whole situation behind minor league baseball players and them probably not making enough money came to light once again. And Commissioner Manfred was asked about players making a decent enough living and a living wage, and he said he rejects the premise that minor league players are not paid a living wage, prompting a huge barrage of criticism the day after. And this has gone all the way to, basically all the way to the Capitol Hill, with the Senate Judiciary Committee is sending a letter inquired about the league's treatment of minor leaguers, as well as Manfred was asked about whether owners can't afford to pay minor leaguers more or simply choose not to. Manfred said, "I reject the premise of the question that minor league players are not paid not paid a living wage. We've made real strides in the last few years in terms of what minor leaguers are paid, even putting to one side the signing bonuses that many of them have already received. They receive housing, which is obviously another form of compensation. I just reject the premise of the question. I don't know what else to say about that." And of course, with talking about the potential backlash, obviously, with a recent settlement that Major League Baseball had to make with the minor leaguers, a class action lawsuit, $185 million that they just settled with minor league baseball, who alleged minimum wage and overtime violations by teams made up of 20,000 players that distribute to $120 million across the groups, and calls for MLB to allow teams to pay minor league players during spring training, extended spring training, and instructional leagues. So basically, they get paid during the season, and that's it, which is very unfortunate, which is going to have to force a lot of minor league baseball players not only to have the current job of trying to make it to the major leagues, but also trying to feed their families and or make somewhat of a decent living, have a decent life to begin with, by working probably another job as well. Do you think it's absurd or approved with Commissioner Manfred, his comments about minor leaguers not making a livable wage, and that he rejects the premise altogether?
Well, I don't think he's done his research. Because clearly these guys, like you said, are getting paid during the season. Then after that, they're not. It's like, oh, they're getting housing. But you haven't done your research, buddy. Because here's what Harry Marino said. He's the executive director of Advocates for Minor Leaguers. He said most minor league baseball players work second jobs because their annual salaries are insufficient to make ends meet. The commissioner makes an annual salary of $17.5 million. His suggestion that minor league pay is acceptable is both callous and false. And it proves. So, Rob Manfred is just finding more ways to piss people off. I don't know if he enjoys it. It kind of seems like he does, because everything that he's brought up and whatnot has just been completely and utterly ridiculous. But the comments that he made, I mean, it's absurd. It's absurd. It's been proven, especially by people under his own umbrella, I mean, for minor leagues, that they're not being paid enough, and they have to work another job. Come on, man. I mean, this is what they're doing for a living. They want to get to that point in their careers to make it to the major leagues, and some don't. Which, I mean, that's what happens. But I look at this, and with him just saying just ridiculous things like that, and not, acknowledging the fact that he could do more with it, maybe even give them more money and get paid less. I don't know. But he won't do it because, well, he's Rob Manfred, because he doesn't give a rip about baseball. Like you said, he's on the infamous list. He was at number 10. More on that in a second. But yeah, I think it's absurd. He needs to take a look in the mirror before he says anything else with that. So yeah, I think it's absurd. Foldy?
Well, if Rob Manfred wants to, put a few bucks in the hat, start passing around to help out minor leaguers, by all means, because obviously with some of the numbers we're looking at, I mean, they have to work second jobs. A lot of the minor leaguers, just under $15,000 annually that they are paid in season only. That doesn't include all the training they have to do. Maybe they go down and play winter ball or something like that. Yeah. Spring training, extended spring training. Maybe they play in the fall league or something like that. Dominican, or if they play in the Dominican during the winter or something like that. Basically, if they play year round, they're only getting paid, from the time that, let's say, late March into August, September, basically,
Yeah.
or something like that. So, 6 months out of the year, we'll say 6-7 months out of the year that they're getting paid for. That other 5 to 6 months, not going to exactly take you from, one season into the next because, well, the world's getting too damn expensive to begin with too. But the fact that he even rejects like he straight up said, no, your accusations, your comments are stupid. I don't believe it as well. That's fake news. That's fake news to hear from Manfred. Like, I mean, there's so many things. Like, are things better? I can't say they are better. Like, you can say whatever you want. I'd like to think things are better for minor leaguers because, yeah, for a long while it wasn't good. Guys were riding, like on, coach buses to and from games and eating peanut butter jelly sandwiches in the parking lot because that's what they could really afford, or they're going to McDonald's every other day just to get something to eat as well. Unfortunately, that's the life of minor league baseball. I like to think things have gotten a little bit better, and yes, they even mentioned too that COVID may have had something to do with it too, where they had to cancel the entire minor league season, and that set guys back even further.
Sure.
Some maybe that were on the cusp of making it and or were on their way out, or maybe said, let's give it one more season, see if I can do something with it, and basically said, shut the door on that to begin with. It's unfortunate that the commissioner of Major League Baseball can't come out and say, yes, in the past that we've made mistakes, we're looking into it. He's basically just saying, shut up, I'm doing my job, you're making me look bad, knock it off, basically. Yeah. And it's annoying. And I am just sick and tired of hearing how about Rob Manfred basically having to basically say, no, I'm right, you're wrong, shut up, basically. And when it comes to minor, and this is just another, another, not even a feather in the cap, it's another, needle in the haystack, and there's more needles than hay at this point for this whole situation. I mean, honestly, I would just like to hear him say, look, we've screwed up. I understand. We're doing the best that we can. And, you would have liked to have think that things would have, made the right progression because they just recently settled that lawsuit as well. But, it's just a drop of water in the ocean at this point for all the years that minor leaguers have had to struggle just to even think about making it to the major leagues, and the fact that most of them have to work other jobs just to make it through a full year. It's unfortunate. It's completely absurd, the fact that his comments basically are rejecting any idea that there's any wrongdoing to begin with.
I mean, just even more reason to not like the guy. And what's interesting, Voldy, is I got a message from one of our zoners, Zach Huntley.
I did too.
He went to the All-Star game in L.A.
He did.
And guess who he ran into and took a photo with? Mm-hmm. Rob freaking Manfred. And oh boy, the things that we would have said to him if we were there, Voldy. Oh my goodness. He probably would have just said, oh, screw these guys, and walked away. But literally, we put him on the infamous list, and this is what we find. So
probably would have said, hey, Rob, ruin anybody's day today yet?
No,
still early.
Yeah, still waiting. So just wanted to drop that tidbit in there. I don't know if Hunts has it on the socials medias, but it is what it is. So, Manfred, figure your crap out. Okay. All right, next one, Voldy.
Well, try and bring a little levity to the world of baseball. It was announced this past week that Taichung, Tokyo, and Phoenix, along with the city of Miami, will be the 4 host cities for the return of the World Baseball Classic 2023, coming back March, starting, it looks like March 8th, will open up with pool play in Taiwan, and will culminate March 21st in Miami with the return of the World Baseball Classic, previously held back in 2017, which was won by Team USA. Friendly reminder on that. A lot of the teams that were there, the previous regime and in years past, will be back again. Of course, Team USA, Canada, the Dominican, along with Venezuela, Israel, and many other countries that have participated in past World Baseball Classics are back once again. And we'll all get started into early March, too, with that all going to be taking place. Of course, there will be some qualifiers to be taking place, 2022 qualifiers that will have a defending spot, looking at the possibility of a few more teams making it into the World Baseball Classic. Other countries like Germany, Spain, France, Great Britain, South Africa, Brazil, Argentina, Pakistan, New Zealand as well, before they could even make it to the World Baseball Classic, they still have to try and qualify coming up into September and October. But getting back to the real question that we're talking about, Team USA, they are the defending champs. It was announced that looks like Mike Trout is going to be playing in the World Baseball Classic. Great. As a captain of Team USA already, that they are crowning him. Is it absurd or a proof that could Team USA repeat as champions of the World Baseball Classic?
That's a great question. You know what's interesting is that they're expanding it to 20 teams, which is a cool thing that they have. But you know, I guess I'm a little biased, but yeah, of course they would. I mean, stamp of approval. Especially if you have Mike Trout as the captain. I mean, he's one of the top guys in baseball. You might as well have Mike Trout there. And I think this is good for baseball in the fact of having something like that. I mean, this hasn't been played since 2017. I mean, it's been a long time. Yeah. And it deserves to be played, especially to represent your country is a big thing, especially for other countries. And I look at the pools, Pool A, Pool B, Pool C, D, all that stuff. It's kind of cool to see them in like different areas of the world, I should say, and being able to play, especially that, they kind of split it. Europe's here, South America is here, yada yada yada, but it's good for. I mean, I don't know. Did Manfred encourage this? Who knows? He probably didn't. But, hope not. But, Pool C, you have USA, you have Canada, Colombia, Mexico. I mean, Canada, you never know what could happen with them. Looks like there's some qualifiers, too, so that's kind of cool. I kind of like how they do that. But it's going to be a fun thing to see. Obviously, seeing USA back out there is going to be a joy, really a joy to see and whatnot. Yeah. But it's got my stamp of approval. I definitely think that they could, but you gotta watch out for teams like I don't know, Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic. There's some pretty good players that will be on there. Japan is usually pretty good too. So, but yeah, USA baby, let's go. Stamp of approval. Voldy, what do you think?
Look, I would certainly hope, especially after the recent success at the World Baseball Classic, and I would feel like this one's got a little bit more excitement behind it than in past World Baseball Classics. Like, the last one had a good amount of excitement with the amount of players that were playing, that were at pretty decent playing ability. I would think this one would certainly draw a lot more attention, especially when you get Mike Trout, one of the best players on the planet, already committing to it in July of 2022 and doesn't even get started till March of 2023. Certainly speaks to the level that a lot of these guys, they want this opportunity because like the last one, like you had said, hasn't been played since 2017. So they keep at this rate. The next one's not gonna be till 2029. And a lot of those players that are playing right now on the back end, if not hanging them up in their careers too. So I feel like this would certainly draw a lot more attention from some of the best in the game of baseball to take this a little bit more seriously. Looking at Team USA's chance as well, it's going to be an interesting one to see how they get out of pool play, especially Mexico and Canada as well. You never know what you're going to get out of the Canadians and what they can sneakily sneak past you with a couple of good players that they have, Major League Baseball. But then, once they get past pool play as well, then they got to go up against the other pool that is Puerto Rico, Venezuela, Dominican, Israel, and whatever qualifying team makes it out of that one as well. Any of those teams certainly bodes a very interesting matchup, especially Puerto Rico and Venezuela. They made a lot of noise in the last WBC. And, of course, the Dominicans are always stacked no matter which team. They could really put out two teams, and there would still be enough players for both of them as well. course, you got to watch out for like Japan. You got to watch out for Korea as well. The Netherlands are a sneaky good team in years past. Italy's had some good teams, and of course, the Cubans always have a few players that are worth looking at as well. So their chances at improving certainly are going to be. It's going to be an uphill battle, but I think they still have a pretty good chance.
Yep. Yeah, I think stamp of approvals all around. It'll be fun to see coming up here. So, all right, next one, Voldy.
Well, getting a look here, there are a bunch of sirens going on.
Yeah,
outside,
what's going on
I was
there?
just checking to see. I couldn't quite tell if it was Case screaming or if it was the sirens outside. So I thought, believe me, it sounds the same after a while. But sticking with Major League Baseball and a situation that's ever-changing, that's turning basically into two high school girls yelling at each other. And basically it's going to have to come down and say, girls, you're both pretty. Knock it off. Washington Nationals and Juan Soto, their franchise, base of the franchise, may not be seeing eye to eye as of late, as it was recently reported that the Washington Nationals are open to listening for any potential trades for Juan Soto after reports had come out that Juan Soto did reject a recent offer of a long-term deal, 15 years, $440 million, making that would have been the largest contract in Major League Baseball history. Now, Soto did say that he did decline a 13-year, $350 million offer just before the lockout of this season as well, but would be eligible to become a free agent after the 2024 season. And the level of pettiness that this has come into now has reached, and this was just as a few hours ago as I saw this as well, that Juan Soto was in the not only the All-Star game, but also the Home Run Derby, which he did win.
Right.
Juan Soto's agent confirmed that the Washington Nationals, quote, refused to charter him a flight to the Home Run Derby on Monday after he rejected their deal. So Soto flew commercial, arrived in L.A. at 1:30 in the morning, and then proceeded to win the Home Run Derby, basically out of spite as well for the Washington Nationals, and obviously play in the All-Star game at the same time. Looking at this situation that is just divulging deeper and deeper into one petty act or another, is it possible that Juan Soto could be traded or signed, whichever one? Is he going to get signed or is he going to get traded before the trade deadline that comes up at the end of the month?
I think I'd probably say traded at this point. I think you're going to get some damn good value out of it. The fact that they offered him 15 years. Okay, think about this. 15 years. $440 million. That is insane. And he rejected it. And that's interesting as well. The question I ask is that's a whole lot of money. He's a top player in baseball. And, I know that he's eligible to become a free agent and everything like that, but something must have just snapped between both sides, and they're just like, screw this, and whatnot. So the Nationals are kind of looking at this as kind of like, you know what, we're going to get some value out of you no matter what. And apparently they're going to try to do that. Now, he's a free agent after this season, but I think you're going to get a lot of value in if you trade him. Before the deadline, maybe, I don't know. We'll see. But they say that they're not going to trade Soto, but they said that we made it clear to them, blah, 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 and whatnot. The Nationals are 31-63 right now. So that you factor that in with the record and whatnot. They're kind of in rebuild mode and whatnot. And Soto said, I don't want to keep losing, and he doesn't want to be there. And it's clear that they refused to. They had him go with the general population to the freaking All-Star game. Just shows you how broken this this relationship is, and I think it just needs to end soon with a trade or whatnot. But I think he's going to be traded, so that's my opinion. We'll see what happens. I don't know. Voldy, what do you think?
Look, the fact that this is happening so quickly, they've won a World Series 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And yet it feels like it happened 10 years ago with how much turnover has been in that 3 years. Like, literally, we were thinking that as soon as Bryce Harper left DC and the Nationals, that Nationals were never going to be good again. Lo and behold, the season after he leaves, they go and win a World Series, with Juan Soto being one of the main catalysts of that team, too. And the fact that, they're 27.5 games behind the NL East lead. And, again, looking at their third straight losing season after winning the World Series, unfortunately, it's sad. Just because you hate to see one of the best players in the game get stuck on a team that's continuing to lose. I would love to be in a position that I could reject a 15-year, nearly $500 million contract. Just say, nah, I'm good, and be in that position to do so as well. But I can see where he's coming from just because of the fact, like, look, we're not going to be good for a while. I don't want to be tied down for, basically the best years of my career and putting up all these numbers just because the team around me sucks to begin with. Because there's also the other issue with the potential sale of the Washington Nationals as well. The Lerner family that has owned the Nationals since 2006 has said back in April that they're looking at possibly selling the Nationals and has hired a firm to look into those that would potentially be interested. So if the ownership group is not fully invested in the team, so why should one player that could potentially make $500 million say that he's fully invested in a team when even the owners aren't going to be fully invested and could quite possibly be done in the next couple of seasons? I can understand where he's coming from is that I could see a big old trade happening, if not at the deadline, maybe during the off season, because you're going to strike while the iron is most absolute hot. Home run derby champ, a perennial all-star as well. Great bat in the lineup, solid defensively as well. If he doesn't get top dollar this offseason, if not contract and or trade value, I don't know what's wrong with this world, especially with Major League Baseball. Manfred probably screwed this up in some way, shape, or fashion.
Probably.
But if he doesn't get traded this offseason, I would be slightly surprised. But if I would definitely say he gets traded, maybe just not by the trade deadline on August 2nd. Because, you want to hold on to him for at least one more year and, gauge what kind of feelers. Obviously, you're going to want to get as many of the best prospects you can from one, if not a couple teams. This may take a 2-3 team deal in order for this to fully happen because not one team's going to fork over, their best 5, 6, 7 top prospects for one guy that he may be gone after a season if they don't sign him to extension. I think he might get traded. It just may not be during the regular season or during the trade deadline.
Right. What a toxic situation. It's not good. I mean,
boy, and I thought the Vikings situation was toxic. This is just downright nuclear going on right now.
This is very nuclear, and I think that you can say that Zimmer and Kirk didn't get along and everything like that, but like this situation's just we're not even going to give you a plane to the All-Star game. Like, thanks, a-holes. It's just
exactly.
Okay. So, all right, last one, Foldy.
Yeah, so we're heading to the National Basketball Association and JamesHarden, guy who's been in the headlines a lot basically for lack of production, wanting to get traded, showing up, and not being in the best peak physical condition. Well, he's done messing around anymore one way or another. Basically, JamesHarden is saying, look, go out and get all the guys that you want, throw whatever money you want at me later or after the fact, quote, whatever is left. And a quote that he said with Yahoo Sports, I've had conversations with Daryl, talking about team president Daryl Morey. It was explained how we could get better and what market value was for certain players. I told Daryl to improve the roster, sign who we needed to sign, and give me whatever is left over, possibly looking at a pay cut and or, some sort of smaller extension on the tenure for JamesHarden in Philadelphia. Quote, this is how bad I want to win. I want to compete for a championship. That's all that matters to me at this stage. I'm willing to take less to put us in a position to accomplish that. So you're basically telling me that maybe JamesHarden has finally seen the light and it's not about him anymore as being the guy. Looking at those comments and what could potentially be for the 76ers, is it absurd or proof? Could the 76ers be able to grab talent needed to win a title this upcoming season.
Well, about, let's see, 2 hours ago, he just signed a 2-year, $68.6 million deal with a player option to opt out after this year, I believe.
Well, hopefully they got a bigger payroll.
Yeah, so Harden's getting what he's getting. He's like, whatever, give me, you can pay me whatever, I just want to win. Okay, well, they just paid him, so there you go. But he's fine till whatever is left. And I think, like you said, he's kind of at the point now where, okay, it's not about me because I don't, I guess I'm not as good as I once was. But I still think that he has enough juice to, be an impactful player. He's not a scrub. I mean, he's still James Harden. I think they will be able to. You still have Joel Embiid. I mean, he's not going anywhere. But you have to add guys. And here's another thing too. And we sometimes forget this, but the Ben Simmons thing, I think, took a lot of controversy, put a lot of controversy on the Sixers. I know it was before Harden, the trade and everything like that. But Harden comes here because, Kyrie is Kyrie and, whatever was going on there. But I'll give it a very light stamp of approval because, the Sixers sometimes, you hype them up and then all of a sudden they fall flat on their face. But it's not for lack of trying or anything like that. They have Harden, they have Embiid. You have to add more to it. And I think at this point they haven't really added much, so this could be absurd territory too. So I'm not saying whether I give it my light stamp of approval because I think if they make a deal here with another team and bring in a third guy that's going to be key for them, I think that's what's going to happen. And especially with the camaraderie with Morey and James Harden. I mean, they were together there in Houston and whatnot. So because he was GM and obviously Harden was there too. So I think they're under a good understanding. The question is, who are you going to bring in? Who are you going to get? So we'll see. I don't know. But I'll give it my light stamp of approval because the Sixers find a way to screw it up. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Voldy, what do you think?
Well, the fact that he's already gotten his extension and gotten his money, probably maybe not the best sign, but that the 76ers are looking to get some bigger guys. But, I mean, Philadelphia went out and got P.J. Tucker, and, the 76 players that did say that, we needed a guy like that. Well, that's at least one positive stride. It went out and got DeAnthony Melton, Daniel House as well to help bolster a little bit of depth on the bench of the 76ers. Obviously Joel Embiid as well, that is still going to be with them. And, getting rid of the dead weight and Ben Simmons, he's now in Brooklyn. Hopefully that takes that shadow off of Philadelphia so that they can go out there and finally do something for once with all this hype that they've had over the last few years. Is it going to be enough to win them a title this year? No, but I think it might get them in the right stride in the next couple of years to maybe get them more in consideration of how they could potentially be. Could they win a title this season? I don't know. That's the thing. It's still a long off season with free agency still going on and potentially guys getting signed and how the year develops. Is it enough to get them a title this year? I'm going to say no. I think it's completely absurd.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to get them. I'll say this. I don't think it's going to get them to a title because I think you still have to go through a lot of good teams in the East. And I hate to say it, but the Heat are one of them. Because, Jimmy and those guys seem to be kind of in the running and whatnot. And good Lord, the Celtics. I mean, they've been great as of, this past season especially. So it's going to be a tough road for the Sixers. But, unless Harden really turns it on and he's the guy that's scoring left and right, which I think it's possible. But I think you also need Embiid to help with that too. So I give it my light stamp of approval that they'll get players, but I think it's absurd. They're not going to get to a title. I think it is too tough in the East for them to get out of there. So, well, we'll see. I don't know. Unless, and Embiid's got to stay healthy. So there's another thing with that. Anyway, great job with ARA this week, Voldy. A lot of cool things, especially with the baseball stuff. Controversy, World Baseball Classic, things like that. Harden, and then Zim. I mean, of course, we got to talk about that too. So a lot of great stories. Let's move on to Shield shoutouts. It's been a week. There's been some shoutouts that we need to get. There's a lot of retirements, apparently. So we'll get to that and some other stuff too. So I think we should get it going with some Shield shoutouts.
Shield shoutouts.
All right, Shield, who you shouting out tonight?
Well, a couple big retirements that have happened the last couple of weeks, as we kind of mentioned, alluding to Shield shoutouts, including which to a happy retirement of defenseman Duncan Keith, most notably in his career with the Chicago Blackhawks, is hanging them up after winning 3 Stanley Cups with the Chicago Blackhawks, winning 2 Norris trophies for the best defenseman in the NHL, and winning, playing in over 1,200 games in his career, decides to hang them up. And after a fantastic career, one of the better defensemen in his time, Duncan Keith, decides to hang up the skates. And also a retirement to one half of the McCourty twins, Jason McCourty, who decided that he had enough playing football in his career, spending time with Tennessee, playing with Cleveland, of course, with his brother on the Patriots, Jason, and fellow twin Jason for the Patriots. And then I think he played with Miami this past season.
Oh, yeah.
I believe that he was. But, of course, going from one swing of the knife to the other, going from one season playing for a team that didn't win a single game in Cleveland, the following season winning a Super Bowl with the New England Patriots, that there'll be one swing towards the other of a career notable and a heck of a career as well. So happy retirement to Jason McCourty, one half of the McCourty twins that decided to hang them up. Devin's still going strong up in New England as well, so definitely not going to be hanging them up anytime soon, at least hopefully. I got that, my fingers crossed on that. Special Shield shout-out, just found out earlier this afternoon that an old teammate, classmate of mine, Jordan Bale, has been named the varsity head baseball coach for our alma mater at Byron High School. Damn, we're getting old. We're getting old, man. The fact that he is now head coach for the program that we both played for, well, he played, I mostly watched as well, is, we're getting up there. And the fact that that's a thing now, it still shocks me to this day. Sure. But also a quick Shield shout-out that just happened before the show actually got started as well. Big Shield shout-out to the Massachusetts State Police. Finally got back to me. They're going to be sending me a patch here in the very near future as well. Messaged them on old Facebook, and they said, yeah, just shoot us your address and we'll get one right to you. So big Shield shout out to the Mass State Police, and hopefully we'll have that before too long as well. That's going to do it for Shield shout outs this week.
I love it. Well, a lot of breaking news Shield shout outs. I like exactly. That. That's sweet. Do you remember what team Duncan Keith played for this past season then?
Edmonton, I think.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, yeah. I thought he was with the Stars or something, or I don't know.
Might have been with the Stars for a minute, but I think he played with Edmonton this past season.
He was a problem for the Wild, I can tell you that much.
Yeah, basically anybody for Chicago was a problem.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, we can put it like that. But anyway, great job with Shield shoutouts, Voldy, per usual.
Thanks, sir.
And as we usually do, we end the show with people wanting to buy some merch. We got merch. We got shirts, $20, $5 shipping for the shirts, as well as the hats, $20, $5 shipping. We've got some available, as well as we got stickers, and I know people have been asking about these too. We just got to get them to you. Big ones, $3, $2. So we can get them to you. We'll send them to you, and we'll have more fun with it. So looking forward to doing that with the Zoners. And they're all 5 out of 5 stars. And we're working on something right now, but we'll get to that at a later time. And also, special shout out to W2 Performance, Will Rattel. He's been posting videos daily, and I swear the guy is getting a lot of traction with his stuff. There's a lot of people chiming in. There's a lot of people asking him questions. So we got to give him a special round of applause. Will Rattel. Make sure you check out www.w2performance.com for everything he's got going there. And then shout out to National Fleet Graphic, Crown Rental, Tyler Knutson for the stickers. Jack O'Keefe, Jack's Junkyard. Also shout out to Breaking Into the League with Sam Gabrielli, Ryan Martin, available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And, of course, the victorious P.O.D. We're getting close to fantasy football season with Ryan Walters and Jack Vickers. We got to get on Walters for that whole Green Bay is going to win the division this year.
Yep, we do.
Well, we'll talk. We're going to talk, Mr. Walters, so we'll go from there. But anyway, that's going to do it for episode 115. Thank you for all the views and things like that. Another great show. And I think we're going to be back next week. We're going to be in training camp. Twins are going to be back playing. We'll be chatting more about that. And who knows, maybe we have a special guest on. I don't know. We're talking. We're talking to some people. So we'll keep you posted. And also look on our socials medias. We got some announcements coming your way too. So keep an eye out for that. But anywho, as always, remember, folks, keep in the zone.
Holla.
Thank you for watching MinneZona Sports Live. Join us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. for live show broadcast. And as Voldy likes to say, follow us on all the socials medias.